Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock on this splendid day after Groundhog Day. Did your life repeat itself over and over again yesterday? I'm the Reverend Ned Wight, the interim senior minister here at the congregation, serving with the Reverend Jennifer Brower, who is even this morning preaching at our Stony Brook congregation as part of the Long Island Ministerial Leave Program. That's a program that provides some assistance when people are going on sabbatical so that other ministers can help cover some of the preaching responsibilities of those congregations. And the Reverend Natalie Fenimore, who is away on sabbatical at this present time. We welcome you all to Unitarian Universalist Café, UU Café, that happens immediately following the service in the social hall. If you are here for the first time, please stop by the visitor's desk for a voucher for a free lunch. So that will be terrific. You will notice that I'm standing behind a peculiar entity that you have not seen before. This is a plywood mock-up of a proposed new pulpit for the congregation. And rather than spring forward and put that into practice in its final form without trying it out, we're going to try out this mock-up for a while to see how it works. It has an adjusting factor that goes up and down. Very fancy. That will be electric in the final thing, but you're going to see me doing a little up and down motion today. It has a place for our chalice, so that we don't have to have a separate chalice stand. The chalice stand that we do have has some wood carvings by Judy Hickson, one of our members of our congregation, and we'll find another place to honor her with posting those should we adopt this particular model. So your job is to try to give us as much feedback as you can about whether you like it or don't like it, and what you like about it, et cetera, et cetera. I know you're a reticent group, so I have to encourage you to speak, but please do. Just if you could mention that to any of the ministers or send us an email, whatever. We're going to try it for a few months to see how it works, and let us know what you think. There's a congregational meeting today at 12:45 in this worship room. 12:45 here. This is postponed from January 20th when we had a little bit of a weather threat. There is later today at 5:30 a Super Bowl party feast, and there's also a women's group goddess experience that is an alternative to the Super Bowl, so you can decide which of those two events you might want to attend. Next week, the Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, who is the president and CEO of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, will be preaching, and she is going to be coming early at 9:45 to greet people over bagels and coffee in the social hall. So if you would like to have a conversation with Mary Catherine, learn a little bit more about the UU Service Committee's work before she preaches, please come early next week, 9:45 to 10:30. She'll be in the social hall. Finally, we mourn the death this week of Shelley Turtletaub, partner of Lillian Strassman for nearly 11 years, who died on Wednesday. Lillian was with him, holding his hand and humming and listening to Sinatra's CDs, and he died very peacefully. There'll be a private graveside ceremony tomorrow, and other celebrations in his life will be forthcoming. So our hearts and prayers are with Lily. So let us continue our service with greeting your neighbor. one more announcement before we go to the prelude. Next week is Music Among Us after the service. So today is the last day. If you would like to sing something or perform something at Music Among Us, please see Karen Lingstad Hughes. Karen?
There's flyers to sign up on the desk.
On the desk. So please sign up today, and we'll love to come give you adulation next week. Opening words are from both Hebrew and Christian scripture. From Leviticus 19, "You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord."
From the 22nd chapter of Matthew. "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This the greatest and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." Our chalice lighting words are adapted from Israel Zangwill. "Come into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come and you shall know peace and joy." Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 34 in the gray hymnal, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Please remain standing as we join in our words and song of affirmation printed in the order of service. Saying together, love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need. This do we affirm and covenant with each other.
Let songs of faith
Generosity is an act of love, giving freely from the abundance with which we have been blessed. In the spirit of generosity, I invite you now to participate in today's offering for the work of this congregation. The ushers will please come forward.
Today's reading features Musings on Love from Wishful Thinking by theologian and writer Frederick Buechner. Of all powers, love is the most powerful and the most powerless. It is the most powerful because it alone can conquer that final and most impregnable stronghold, which is the human heart. It is the most powerless because it can do nothing except by consent. To say that love is God is romantic idealism. To say that God is love is either the last straw or the ultimate truth. In the Christian sense, love is not primarily an emotion, but an act of the will. When Jesus tells us to love our neighbors, he's not telling us to love them in the sense of responding to them with a cozy emotional feeling. You can as well produce a cozy emotional feeling on demand as you can a yawn or a sneeze. On the contrary, he is telling us to love our neighbors in the sense of being willing to work for their well-being, even if it means sacrificing our own well-being to that end, even if it means sometimes just leaving them alone. Thus, in Jesus' terms, we can love our neighbors without necessarily liking them. In fact, liking them may stand in the way of loving them by making us overprotective sentimentalists instead of reasonably honest friends. This does not mean that liking may not be a part of loving, only that it doesn't have to be. Sometimes liking follows on the heels of loving. It is hard to work for somebody's well-being very long without coming in the end to rather like them too. This ends our reading. Love can fill us with a sense of gratitude and appreciation at times of loss and sorrow, and with a sense of solidarity and connection at times of celebration. I invite you forward now to light candles as love prompts you.
Let us enter into a spirit of prayer and meditation. O God, spirit of life, of creativity, of liberation, We rejoice that we have been blessed to experience the transformative power of love. We rejoice that you have blessed us with families to hold and nurture us as we journey from infancy to adulthood. We rejoice in the good intent that parents bring to the creation of a family. But we lament that many children experience conflict rather than comfort at home. Make us bold to offer you the traumas we have suffered, that through your grace they might be transformed into trust. We rejoice that you have blessed us with friendship to teach us what it means to give and to receive. We thank you for the gift of choice that friendship represents. May we continue to affirm and challenge one another through friendship, enrich one another's lives with laughter and love. Make us bold to thank you each day for those whose friends and whose love revive our spirits and sustain us. O God, we rejoice that you have blessed us with those who witness to the power of love over death. We remember especially those crisis workers and first responders who put concern for others above concern for themselves to provide help when disaster strikes. We remember the hungry, the homeless, those in prison. And we remember those who are sick or in some other distress, especially those whose names we lift up to you now in the silence of our hearts. May they know your love and your healing presence. We remember all those who have committed their lives to work for justice and peace. We rejoice in their example. Make us bold to follow them as they draw strength and stamina from the sources of love that surround them. And finally, we rejoice that you have blessed us with this congregation, meeting in worship and service. Together we have shared moments of sadness and sorrow, as well as laughter and joy. We come together once again this morning to celebrate the promise of a community bound together by love. Make us bold to seek your transforming power today and every day. So may it be. Shalom. Amen. you for that, choir. Gets us ready for our congregational meeting. This is good. Well, we're at the fourth of our series of sermons about the sources of our Unitarian Universalist faith, Jewish and Christian teachings which call on us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. We're in trouble right away with this one. We're called to respond to God's love. It's not a bad shorthand for the story that's told in the Bible. The problem, I think, is joining these two traditions like they're somehow Siamese twins. One step better, perhaps, than the Judeo-Christian tradition. The same hubris that we have in using the terms before Christ or Anno Domini. It's why we use before the Common Era now and in the Common Era. Hanukkah isn't Christmas. Passover isn't Easter. Shavuot isn't Pentecost. The high holidays aren't Lent. The two traditions have common roots, but they're two different traditions with common roots. They have each its own integrity, body of scholarship, thought, story, practice. Why then do they both get mentioned together in this source? Well, they're two different traditions, but with a common root. The Torah is one of those roots, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, the Bible used by Christians as well. Often translated law, but more than that. Principles governing the life of a people living in covenant with God that evolved over thousands of years. Folks who thought they were surrounded by a loving God and in relationship with that God. Love is a theme that runs throughout this whole story. God's love for a particular people shown in events from their love story. The extravagant and generosity of love in Genesis, the 6 days of creation which was proclaimed by God good or very good. The tough demands of love nearly wiping them out completely in the flood, the covenant with Noah never to do that again, signed by the rainbow. Care and concern of love in a promise to Abraham and Sarah, to Isaac and Rebekah, to Jacob and Rachel. The loyalty of love in the Exodus from Egypt. The forgiveness of love in exile and restoration. The celebration of love in the development of festivals and rituals. The anguish of love in persecution down through the Holocaust. God calls Jews to love, embodied in the Shema, which comes shortly after the 10 Commandments. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Keep these words that I am commanding with you today in your heart. The love of God is central to Judaism, and so is love of neighbor. Some try to distinguish between Judaism as a tradition of law and Christianity as a tradition of grace, but law and grace are equally represented in both traditions. The difference is in emphasis as to how each is expressed itself in history and how we are called to incorporate each in our lives. Consider our opening readings from Leviticus, an ancient law code, the 2nd book in the Torah. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against any of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. A rule for maintaining community order and solidarity, a wise rule then as now. The Shema and this law are what Jesus hearkened back to when asked, as recounted in Matthew 22, Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest? Jesus said to them, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. All the law and the prophets is a shorthand way of saying the whole Torah. For Jesus, love was the core power within Torah. In Luke's account of the lawyer's question, Jesus quotes the same texts, and this is the provocation for Jesus to tell the story of the Good Samaritan. Here, Jesus pushes the envelope. He gives the definition of neighbor a disturbing twist. Neighbor is the one we're called to love as much as we love ourselves, but that's not just our people or our kind of people. It includes folks we can't stand, maybe even folks we hate. Talk about tough love. It's all very well to be admonished to love one another, but how do we pull it off in real life? It's taken me a long time to internalize that the kind of love the Bible speaks of isn't the same kind of love that Hollywood wants us to be obsessed with, or even the same kind of love Hallmark wants us to feel toward mothers and fathers and sweethearts and lovers, although bringing these folks into the sphere of a kind of intentional caring isn't a bad idea. The kind of love the Bible speaks about is the kind that prompts us to help those in need, to have compassion for those who are suffering, even if they are strangers. At 1 o'clock this morning, I just returned from 3 days in Tucson, Arizona, with the UU Service Committee Board of Trustees. We visited with representatives from 3 partner groups: No More Deaths, Border Links, and Mariposa Sin Fronteras. All groups are dedicated to help migrants and asylum seekers from Central and South America and Mexico fleeing state or gang violence or persecution because of sexual orientation or gender expression. And what they too often find at the border is more of the same: a 24-foot steel wall with wire mesh and 2 or 3 bands of razor wire, militarized border agents who destroy water jugs placed in the desert by volunteers and instead charge these volunteers with felony trespassing and littering. Humanitarian aid is never a crime, proclaim lawn signs that No More Deaths have distributed throughout Tucson. The staff and volunteers of these UUSC partners are acting out of the kind of love described in the Jewish and Christian scriptures, the kind that prompts us to help those in need, to have compassion for those who are suffering, and to challenge out of our passion for truth the priests and Levites of our day who would have us believe that migrants, refugees, and those seeking asylum are thieves and murderers, people to be feared, not worth an ounce of our respect, people utterly without worth and dignity, who may be abused and vilified and shot with impunity and without consequences. Our liberal UU traditions draw upon the Bible as a source of spiritual wisdom, and I, for one, refuse to give the field of biblical interpretation over to any single faction. Biblical religions are too rich a source of wisdom to abandon. They have a long, distinguished history of comforting the afflicted and afflicting the comfortable. That's our task, too. Let me close by sharing excerpts from a letter I wrote in response to a call from a mother of a young woman I'd known when I was serving a prior congregation. She was deeply distressed because her daughter was severely depressed and suicidal. They had felt that they had no choice but to give her over to an institution to help her, and here's what I wrote her. Dear Jane, your mother called today to bring me up to date about your recent move. In many ways, she said, it has been a difficult time of transition for you and for your parents. She said that you have been contending with depression for a long time, and that the past couple of months have been particularly difficult, painful, bleak, without much to look forward to, hang on to, or hope for. The individual freedom each one of us has been given is an awesome gift, sometimes a burdensome gift, sometimes a terrifying gift, sometimes a wonderful gift. The chalice lighting words we used to say together each week in church I once attended came to mind. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. Sometimes it's hard to find much to feel grateful for. Sometimes the glories seem to be almost totally eclipsed by the suffering, and the mysteries seem more woeful than wonderful. While everyone's experience of life is his or her own, and no one knows exactly what anyone else is feeling or experiencing, I too have wrestled with the angel of despair in my life. At such times, the love I knew others felt for me always seemed like something of a mixed blessing. On the one hand, I felt totally unworthy of their love, as unworthy of their love as I felt incapable of loving myself. On the other hand, I felt somewhere deep within me a longing to accept their love without reservation, as they were offering it to me, to accept it without questioning it because it was offered freely, and to allow myself to understand that if they could love me, warts and all, maybe I could love myself too. For that is what depression is or does to us. It robs us of our capacity to feel and experience love from within ourselves, from outside ourselves, from friends, from family, from strangers, from God. The experience of being at the limit, at the edge of meaning in life, is a very old human experience. The ancient psalmist wrote thousands of years ago, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O God. Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my supplications. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than those who watch for the morning." More than those who watch for the morning. I sense that you too are crying out of the depths and waiting, watching for some help, some relief, some comfort, some hope. God, or whatever you might choose to call the greatest mystery in the universe, has called each of us into being for a reason or reasons. Our task in living is to figure out what this reason might be, or perhaps better stated, to construct this reason with God. A friend of mine who had lost a lover to AIDS took pains to remind me in my bleakest moods, "You know, Ned, God don't make no junk." I've had lots of chances to think of his words. There have been many days when I felt like junk, pure and simple. His words apply to you as much as to me. God don't make no junk. I know you are surrounded by people who love you, your family, your classmates, your friends, people I don't know, and even people you don't know. I count myself among that company, and individually each of us feels powerless to lift the cloud of depression that so distorts perception that you can't feel the love within yourself connected to and replenished by all of the love, our love for you. Even when you can't feel the connection, I want you to know that there is nothing that can separate you from that love. I trust you will someday be able to embrace love and hope with the same intensity that you have been embraced by hopelessness and despair. It may take some time, and a willingness to stay on the difficult path of self-examination and personal change that you have set out on. I continue to hold you in my thoughts, in my prayers, in my hopes, in my heart. I care about you and want you to experience joy in your life once again. I believe it's always there waiting for us. Yours, Reverend Ned. Her response confirms for me the power that is unleashed when we attempt in good faith to tell the truth in love. Dear Ned, I wanted to write you and thank you so much for taking the time to write me. When I read your letter, it got me back in touch with the spiritual side I thought I had lost. I appreciate your words of wisdom, your words of spirituality, which I miss so much. And for that, I thank you. Thanks also for putting the chalice lighting, saying I'd forgotten about that completely. Your letter was so powerful to me that I felt like I wanted to share it with some of the other patients here whom I know would benefit from it. People were very touched when I read it in the third step meeting. The third step is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Your letter seemed to fit this step so well that I hope you don't mind me sharing it with the group. It made people really think about our higher power. Thank you again for sending me a letter that I will always treasure close to my heart. Thanks again, and take care of yourself. I love you. Jane. There is great power in love as we have come to understand it through the traditions of Judaism and Christianity, and through the witness and example of loving people known to us and unknown to us. May this love fill each of us and all of us in this congregation, enabling us to continue with humility, courage, and persistence our ministry of individual and social transformation. So may it always be. Shalom, blessed be. Insha'Allah, Aho, Shanti, Amen. Let us turn together in the gray hymnal to hymn number 215, 215, Praise to the Living God. And as you're able and willing, please stand in body or spirit.
Our closing words are from the 13th chapter of Paul's first letter to the church at Corinth. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. And the greatest of these is love.